Hi, I'm Andrea. Welcome to this 30-minute yoga practice. Today in our practice, we are actually going to use a chair a fair amount. So find a chair that's sturdy enough that were you to do something like put your hands on the seat of it, it's not super wobbly. Have that at the ready. If you don't have a yoga mat, no worries. Just find a place in your house that's carpeted, or maybe there's something that has a rug on it. You don't want anything slick like linoleum or hardwood floor, especially as we use our chair, just in case that's real slick. And I've got a couple of blocks. You can substitute by finding a couple of thick books. A folded blanket or towel would be great for some padding, just nice to have in case. And I am barefoot, but if you're more comfortable with shoes on, just keep your shoes on, no problem. We'll start, as we often do, in our bedrock pose of mountain pose, Tadasana. So feet hip distance, turn your palms away from each other, soften a little bit in your knees. And we use this stance with beautiful, majestic posture to stop so that we can start. If you're comfortable, you're welcome to close your eyes. We want to find the arrows of attention pointing inward as opposed to distractedly outward. And a great tool for that is our breath. Notice it. Its rise and its fall. If you're able, try to breathe just through your nose. If that's not working, you're not doing anything wrong. I just want you to bring awareness to your breath. Think wide and complete inhales, grounding and emptying exhales. 3 quiet moments here to land. And we'll add, inhale, arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and bring your hands onto your thighs. Inhale, extend your heart forward. Exhale, increase the hinge at your hips, but keep your head higher than your hips. And then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Pause, turn your palms away from you, and stand tall in your majestic mountain. Again, inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and bring your hands onto your thighs. Inhale, extend your heart forward. It's like you're tractioning your hands against your thighs and growing a little bit more in the spine than you ever imagined. And then exhale, hinge at your hips. Inhale, rise, reach, and then stand into your mountain. So we'll do a few more like that. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V shape, and then exhale, hinge at your hips and hands onto your thighs. Inhale, extend your heart forward. Exhale, rehinge at your hips, and then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Float your arms along your side. We'll add to that a chair pose. Bend your knees, inhale, thumbs to the sky for our V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands onto your thighs. Inhale your heart forward. Exhale, rehinge at your hips, and then chair pose, thumbs to the sky, V shape, stand and pause in your mountain. Again, chair pose, inhale. Exhale, fold hands to thighs. Inhale, heart forward. Exhale, hinging at our hips, keeping our head higher than our hips, and then chair pose, and we stand. Twice more like that. Inhale, V-shaped chair. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to thighs. Inhale, extend your heart. Exhale, rehinge at your hips, and then chair pose, and we stand. Last one. Inhale, V, and chair. Exhale, fold, and hands to thighs. Inhale your heart forward. Exhale, rehinge, and then chair pose. Let's hang out just for a moment here in chair. If you prefer your arms out to the side with your thumbs to the sky, no problem. We stay here for 3, and you feel an emphasis into your heels. 2 more. then let's stand. Arms along our side, palms face out. This is where we will incorporate our chair. So move your chair so that it's facing the short edge of your mat. And if you're not using a mat, just kind of imagine where that might be. You'd like it to be within reach. So I'm going to say, we're standing maybe about a foot away from our chair base. And let's just position our blocks in case we use them down the road. Your blocks or books will go off the sides of your mat, so never underfoot. We want to make sure that we are mindful in where we put our props so that they facilitate our practice and don't get in the way. Then feet hip distance facing the seat of our chair. We'll continue our little half sun salutation dance. Bend your knees, chair pose, inhale, thumbs to the sky, and then exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs. Inhale, extend your heart forward. This is our new bit, hands onto the seat of your chair. And I want us to be really careful how we design this. So like I said, sturdy enough seat of your chair, we start there. The wholeness of your hands are pressing into the seat of your chair. Right now I've got a little bend in my knees just as I start to discover this. Now, imagine your inner upper arms spinning out in front of you towards the back of your chair and your outer upper arms hugging into a midline. So we're not collapsed with our elbows out to the side. We've got a little oomph going on, and it actually has a little core work to it. Now keep your hands positioned here, your arms situated as we've done, and just start to experiment with walking your feet back, maybe about a foot. So we're in a modified down dog is what we'll call this. But we make sure that in this modified down dog, our head stays higher than our hips, just like in our half sun salutation. Now oomph into your arms and feel yourself grow long and tall. Remember, we're not collapsed in our shoulders, neither are we bending our elbows out to the side. Those two tend to go hand in hand. Lift your hips up and stand solidly into your legs. 2 moments. We'll call this our down dog today. Walk your feet forward so that you're in the original positioning next to your chair, and then bring your hands onto your thighs and inhale, grow long. Exhale, rehinge at your hips, and then chair pose, thumbs to the sky, a V shape, and we stand with our arms along our sides and our palms facing out. We'll flow that a little bit. Chair pose, inhale. Exhale, fold, and hands to your thighs. Inhale, extend your heart forward. Bring your hands to the seat of your chair. Oomph right away, and make sure your hands are flat. Step back slowly so you know where you are in space. Lift your hips and sink your heels. And then we'll walk forward back to that closer position. Bend your knees, hands to your thighs. Inhale your heart forward. Exhale, rehinge at your hips, and then chair pose. Stand, arms along your side. Again, chair pose, inhale. Hands on your hips as we fold, or your thighs, as we fold, and then inhale your heart forward. Hands to your chair, oomph into your arms. Walk back mindfully, lift your hips and sink your heels. And then once we're there, walk it forward again, feet hip distance, a bend to your knees and your hands to your thighs. Inhale your heart forward. Exhale, rehinge at your hips, and then chair pose, stand. One more round, chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs. Inhale your heart forward and situate your hands mindfully on your chair. Walk back, keep oomphing into your arms as you lift your hips and sink your heels. Head stays higher than hips and we walk forward, hip distance. Knees bent, hands on your thighs. Inhale your heart forward. Exhale, hinge at your hips, and then chair pose. Stand and pause. That's going to be the basic through line of a few sequences that we add. So we can think of it as adding a few friends along the way. Let's start with what we know. Chair pose, inhale. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands on your thighs. Inhale your heart forward. Now, hands to your chair, step it back mindfully. Keep the oomph into your hands. This is where some of us might start to incorporate the blocks that I was talking about. From our down dog where your head is still high, step your right foot forward And then just scoot your back foot so that you can be on the ball of your left foot. And we can keep our hands right here on our chair seat. That's kind of handy. If you want to, as we go, you can also bring your hands onto your 2 blocks. So I leave it to you to decide. While we're here, let's steer a little bit. Right hip back and left hip forward. We're not rounding our back. We're feeling stability from the ground up, and then mobility in the form of some length in our spine. Now, from here, if your hands are on blocks, take your hands to the seat of your chair. All of us together will step left foot hip distance from right, hands onto our thighs. Inhale, traction, some length. Exhale, hinge at your hips, and then chair pose. Stand, arms along your side. Now, you may have noted that I moved my blocks off to the side once I placed my hands on my chair. I'll walk you through that so that you don't have them underfoot. Chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands on your thighs. Inhale your heart forward and then hands on our chair seat. Step it back to what we're calling our down dog today. Oomph into your arms a lot. And then from here, step your left foot forward and scooch a little bit your right foot back so that you can be on the ball of your back foot. And now your blocks can come from the sides of your mat, under your hands, but you don't need to do that. You can keep your hands on the seat of your chair. So if you don't feel like fiddling with a bunch of different props, you don't need to. Left hip dials back, right hip dials forward. And we feel length in our spine and support to that length in our spine by a little uplift in our belly, like just a little oomph, a little awareness. We'll stay for a couple moments, steering left hip back, steering our heart forward. Now this is that trick that I said. If you're going to take your hands off your blocks, this would be their little underfoot. We don't want to keep them there. So just take your blocks off to the side and bring your hands to the seat of your chair. Step your right foot hip distance from your left, hands to your thighs. Inhale, heart forward. Exhale, fold. Chair pose, thumbs to the sky, and then stand and pause. Great. Chair pose, inhale. Exhale, fold, hands to your thighs. Inhale, your heart forward. Now, take your hands onto your chair, and we'll step back to our down dog, oomphin into our arms, keeping our head higher than our hips. Right foot steps forward. This time, hop that back foot back just a little bit. Steer, right hip back and left hip forward, and then come upright, thumbs to the sky. So we're in an upright crescent lunge. Maybe you take a V shape with your thumbs to the sky or arms out to the side is perfect. Now our steering of right hip back and left hip forward just got even more important for our balance, and I like to have a little bend in my back knee. If I straighten my front leg, sometimes I'm pitched forward from the tightness in the front of my left thigh, so a little bend in that back knee is not a bad thing. 3 moments here. Now, I didn't even have to use my blocks for this one. Maybe you found that to be true too, so there's nothing to move. But all of us will take our hands to the seat of our chair, and then we will step left foot hip distance from right, hands to thighs. Inhale, traction, some length. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Chair pose, thumbs to the sky, and then stand and pause in your mountain. Second side, chair pose, inhale. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands onto your thighs. Inhale your heart forward and then hands onto our seat. Step it back. So we're in what we're calling our down dog today. And then left foot steps forward and right foot scooches back a little bit. So we've got our stance for our lunge, and we come upright this time. A little bend in that back knee might be a good idea. I know it is for me. And you're welcome to keep your arms out to the side or make a V shape with your thumbs to the sky. We steer our left hip back and our right hip forward. We pause for a few moments here. Now all of us will return our hands to the seat of our chair and step our right foot hip distance from our left. Hands onto your thighs. Inhale, lift your heart. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Chair pose. And then stand and fully inhabit your mountain. Adding one more friend to our dance here. Chair pose, inhale. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands onto your thighs. Inhale your heart forward, hands onto the seat of your chair for our down dog. Pause for a moment in your down dog, and then right foot steps forward. Back foot will scooch back a little bit. We'll keep it flat on its side. And I think it's a great idea to keep your hands on the seat of your chair because we want to keep our head higher than our hips here. If you would like, you can bring your blocks into the mix. All that I ask is you keep your head high, and we're steering the right hip back and the left hip forward, but with a hamstring stretch this time. I'll give you some silent moments to enjoy this since it's our first hamstring stretch of the day. Let's take 5 moments where I'll just be silent. Now to come out of this, bend your front knee and spin on your back toes. If you're using blocks, set them off to the side. All of us hands onto the seat of our chair, and then left foot hip distance from right, hands to thighs. Inhale, lift your heart. Exhale, hinge at your hips, and then chair pose, thumbs to the sky, and we stand. And pause. Second side of that, chair pose. Inhale. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands on your thighs. Inhale your heart forward, hands onto the seat of our chair, and we step to what we're calling our down dog. We oomph into our arms, lift our hips and sink our heels, but keep our head high, and then step left foot forward. Back foot will scooch back and we'll keep it on its side. Hands can stay on the seat of your chair. You could incorporate bringing your blocks into the mix. I just ask that our heads stay high, and then we dial left hip back and right hip forward and find the sweet spot of a hamstring stretch on our left side. Here as well, I'm going to give you some silence to sip. All these poses are just different shapes in which to take a meditation. 5 moments here. And then come out of it, spin on your back toes and bend your front knee. If you're using blocks, set them off to the side, and all of us hands on our seat. Right foot hip distance from left, hands onto your thighs. Inhale, lift your heart, and exhale, hinge at your hips. Chair pose, thumbs to the sky, a V shape, and we stand. And pause. Take a moment just to let that digest for a moment. It was a lot of movement. Inhale, chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs. Inhale your heart forward, hands onto your chair. We'll step back to our down dog one last time. But this time from our down dog, one knee and then the other knee onto our mat carefully. And we can actually scoot the chair out of the way and move our blocks off to the side. We may choose to use them eventually for something, but right now we don't need them. What you might want is your padding, so you could reach over and grab your folded blanket or folded towel, just in case that feels better, underneath your knees as we come into hands and knees. Now remember, we were talking about the positioning of our hands on our chair. We're going to talk about that now here on the ground on our hands and knees. And we're going to talk about it in relation to plank positions. So I said on our chair, we're not bending our elbows and collapsing into our shoulders. That's true here too. So press into your hands with your wrists underneath your shoulders until it's not sagging in between your shoulder blades, but you feel your shoulder blades on your back. So I'm not saying a big dramatic rounding, just somewhere in the middle there. Keep that happening and as even as you can, the weight in your hands, and then step your right foot back as if we were flirting with a plank, because you know what? We're flirting with a plank. Now keep oomping into your arms and return your right knee, then just step back and flirt with a plank with your left leg. So oomph, oomph, oomph away, and also feel that uplift of your belly, so we're not collapsed in our low back either. You're breathing the whole time, right? And now left knee meets right. We'll come kneeling and just take the backs of our hands together for a wrist stretch in the other direction. So this is called wrist extension, and this is wrist flexion, and we want to kind of release our wrists when we're on them, bearing weight for so long like that. Just know you can do that back of the hand thing anytime you want, anytime you need. Now we're back to our hands and knees. I'm going to move back just a little on my mat so my face is not in my chair. And you can do exactly the same thing that we just did again, or the flirt might go on its first date. So you'll press into your hands and step your right foot back. Flirt that you are, you might stay here, or left foot steps as well. We're not sagging our hips. And if anything, I'd like you to feel like you're lifting your hips the way that we did in what we were calling our down dog on our chair. And then every one of us will bring our knees to our mat, come upright and press the backs of our hands together just for a sec. And then hands and knees again. And oomping into our arms, we step our left foot back as the flirt where it might stay. Maybe right leg also, right foot steps back. Now we're making sure that we're not sagging our hips. I'd actually rather that your hips be slightly too high. 2 moments. You don't have to have both feet off the ground, or both knees, sorry, off the ground. Let's return our knees to our mat, and then one more time, press the backs of our hands together. This next thing I'd like for you to watch me do first, and then we'll do it together. So I'm going to keep my padding underneath my knees. I'm coming to my hands and knees, but I'm moving my hands a little bit forward. So hands and knees would be more like this. A little bit forward is here, but what I don't want us to miss is shoulders over the wrists. So I'm not saying walk your hands out and be here. I want you to have shoulders over your wrists, but I want you to shift a little bit forward so it looks a little bit like a modified plank, because it's a modified plank. We'll oomph into our arms. Watch me do this first. We'll lower slowly, elbows brush your ribs all the way down to the ground. Now you'll notice I didn't do that with my hips leading the way. So we have to have a little trunk stability. Ready? Come into your modified plank, so it's like hands and knees with your knees a little further back, and oomph into your arms like we've been doing even on our chair. Now look a little bit forward, so just forward of the front edge of your mat, and imagine that you want to put your chin on the ground first, but lift in your belly, and then lower all the way down onto the ground. Come to hands and knees. We'll do that one more time. Shift a bit forward in this modified plank position. Lift your hips up like you want your chin to be the first thing down, slowly all the way down onto the ground. A little bit different this time. Uncurl your toes. Bring your forearms onto the ground and let them be parallel to the long edges of your mat, and then traction your chest through the gateway of your arms. So we've got a little bit of a back bendy feel here. There's something called a Vinyasa in Vinyasa flow style yoga, and we're kind of playing with some ideas that could spell that at some point. Now lower down, come to hands and knees. Sit back on your heels, press the backs of your hands just in case. We'll do a few like that. If you need to take breaks, take breaks. If you need to take this, do this anytime. So hands and knees, and then a little bit further forward, so modified plank. At this point I have my toes curled under, oomph into your arms. As if your chin was gonna go down first, lower all the way down onto your belly, and then bring your forearms on your mat, uncurl your toes, and come into Sphinx. And then lower down, hands next to your ribs, curl your toes back under, come through all fours, and then sit back, and let's do our little wrist thing. That's a pretty great option to do. We'll do probably 2 more of these. Great, stick with that one. I'll walk you through a potential other option. Hands and knees, and then a little bit further forward so that we can come into our modified plank. Look forward. As you bend your elbows, it's like your chin is going to be the first thing down, and then either Sphinx pose or keep your hands where they just were and ease your way into a cobra. For some of us, this doesn't feel great in our back, maybe even our low back, so Sphinx would be the better choice. All of us will just lower enough that we can curl our toes under, come back through all fours, and then sit on your heels or kneel so that you can press the backs of your hands together. One more of those. Hands and knees. A little bit further forward. Look forward and let it be that you feel like you're one chunk all the way down and your chin's the first thing to arrive, and then either a cobra with your hands where they are or Sphinx pose if that felt a bit better. And this time, lower down and roll over onto your back. You might want to get rid of your padding. You could even use this folded blanket underneath your head. So once you lie down on your back, we will do Reclining Pidgin. And sometimes it's really nice to have something that feels like a pillow underneath your head here. With your feet hip distance on your mat, cross your right ankle on top of your left thigh, and that might be enough to just hang out here. This is perfect. Perhaps right hand through the space and you hold your left hamstring, or you even take a hold of your left shin, and that padding underneath your head might be really helpful. You're welcome to close your eyes. I'd like you to curl your right toes back so it doesn't feel like a floppy ankle. And then I'll give you silence to meditate in this shape. Release this side, place both feet hip distance, and then take your left ankle atop your right thigh. And that might be enough. If you want to reach through the space with your left hand and hold around your right hamstring or even your right shin, I leave it to you. And then a silent moment of meditation on this side. And now release both feet on your mat. Step your feet as wide as your mat and let your knees fall in on each other. And then gently lift your hips just an inch off your mat and lower your hips back down onto the ground. Snuggle your shoulder blades underneath you and extend one leg and then the other unless it feels better to keep your knees bent. Final Shavasana Meditation. Let your eyes close. If that's not comfortable, soften your gaze. And let yourself let go. You're always welcome to stay in our Shavasana final meditation as long as you'd like. If you're ready, wiggle your fingers and toes, gather your knees into your chest, roll to either side, and come to any comfortable way to sit. Once you're seated, let your hands rest on your lap, palms palms up or down. And just notice what you notice. Those sun salutations are a bit of a transformation in our practice. We're working bit by bit, breath by breath. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me. I look forward to us doing it again together soon.